Joining us now here in studio is American Culture Project Senior Fellow and best-selling author Corey DeAngelis. Corey, thanks for joining us, and great to have you here in Australia. You're here for CPAC. We'll talk about that as well in a second. But I just want to ask you, how does a clean-skinned kind of young guy, clean-cut young guy, smart, gets a scholarship in a family, loving family, doesn't seem to have any political interest particularly, rock off to tertiary education, university, college, whatever you want to call it, and a couple of years later there he is sniping, killing a man with a rifle. How does this happen?
Yeah, there's no clear answer to that, right? But there are some clues and some things happening in society in America right now and the rest of the world is you have the left-wing ideology infiltrating corporate media. You have them infiltrating the school system. He was at a university. And when you look at the critical race theory ideology, diversity, equity, inclusion ideology, it teaches you to hate your country. It teaches you to hate right-wing values. And most importantly, I think the problem that we've seen increasingly over the years is that the left has equated words with violence. And so when you're told that this person is an evil person, this person is repeating things that are equal to violence, well, then if you respond with actual physical violence, you're basically justifying these acts, which are terrible and not justified in the least bit. But this should send a signal to everybody that you have to tone it down when it comes to, we need to have free speech and free exchange of ideas, and we can't just respond to those ideas with violence. What really breaks my heart with all of this is that this happened at a university, and universities are supposed to be bastions of free speech. They're supposed to be places where you have this free exchange of ideas, and Charlie was doing that. Charlie brought the debate to the universities, doesn't call for violence, and you have him assassinated in the very place where you're supposed to have free speech and free ideas. And the universities aren't doing that. I mean, that's what the universities are supposed to be. But they're not facilitating free and open dialogue. What they're doing is inciting resentment. And when you have these diverse, this is why President Trump, I think, is so big on gutting diversity, equity, and inclusion, having executive orders to stop all DEI efforts, because they are a dangerous ideology. And look, it's something we need to get out of our academic.
We can say how poisonous.
Sorry, Rita. James?
Oh, well, just Corey, I just wanted to, ask you more specifically about your work that you do with this. I just, I almost want to pick you up on something you just said here. You said right-wing values. The schools teach you to hate right-wing values. I would say that it's certainly the experience of an awful lot of parents in Australia that the schools teach your kids to hate normal mainstream values. And tell me a bit about, the work that you do in terms of the schools, because I've been following your X account for a long time. I know right now you've found guys who are doing DEI at UCLA who are celebrating the deaths. But one of the things that I've found since Thursday has been my Twitter has been filled with clips of teachers, primary school teachers, celebrating, saying, yeah, this is so good. How on earth are we supposed to let our kids or grandkids go into schools and classrooms when you might have people in there 7 hours a day pumping them full of this?
And imagine the people who don't put this stuff on social media. And there's a lot of people in the system who aren't as brave or courageous to put all their thoughts for the world to see on social media. Some of them are getting fired, but some others in places like Oregon that I exposed, the superintendent actually responded saying, well, this was on their own time. This was on their personal Facebook account. They're not going to do anything about it.
But what does it say that they feel safe, that they feel like there's social clout for them, and that they're safe to do it?
It's because the superintendents probably agree with a lot of the values that are espoused by these people in their same school system, and so they're not going to hold them accountable. And it's a real shame. But yeah, what you said earlier is the bigger point, right? We have millions of kids. We have about 50 million kids in the U.S. going to government-run educational institutions where they're being indoctrinated for 13 years of their lives from K through 12 for 7 hours a day. So we see all this rot on the higher education campuses, on colleges and universities, but it didn't start there. It starts with K through 12. They're starting to mold the minds of young children, young impressionable minds, and it's we need to defund these institutions. We need to allow for school choice so that you can say, to heck with this, we're going to send our kids to schools that actually align with our values, who don't have people who glorify violence, who hate our country, who brainwash the kids with anti-Trump rhetoric. I mean, I saw a lot of clips earlier put together where, you had Kamala Harris calling Trump a fascist. You called Tim Walz, the VP candidate, calling Trump a fascist. And you have this stuff on repeat in the media as well. It's not just in the educational institutions, but when you're surrounded with all this ideology, I mean, this same thing almost happened to President Trump. It hit his ear. And I mean, it's just a year later. And now Charlie Kirk, one of the main figureheads in the conservative movement in the United States, is taken out by an assassin. You have people in the school system celebrating it. It's just
Rita.
And one last thing, they try to call him a hypocrite for this because they're saying, oh, look, he supported the Second Amendment and he gets shot. That's like saying you support people driving cars knowing that there's a risk of that there are some deaths because of people driving cars, and saying, oh, you got into a car accident, now we're going to celebrate you getting into a car accident because you support allowing cars. And it's just total insanity, them trying to say that this is okay in any way and to try to blame him for his own assassination. And I do hope that Turning Point USA does grow even stronger than ever. And God bless Charlie and his family and Erica for putting out that brave message yesterday.
I think they are going to create a lot more Charlie Kirks out of this. You talked about school choice, about parents having the right to send us children to a school that aligns with their values. I would argue those formative years, primary school, secondary school, we call it here, are even more crucial than what they're taught at university. Because at least at university, they would hopefully have some critical thinking. They're at an age where they can feel confident challenging authority. Whilst small kid, 5, 6, 7, 8, they accept what a teacher tells them. So there really is no capacity to challenge that. And tell me about just how corrupted with leftist politics, academia, and the curriculum itself has become.
It's insane. And, I think this is why the teachers' unions in the U.S. fight so hard against school choice. One, we always knew was because of the money. They have a monopoly on funding, but they also have a monopoly on the minds of other people's children. The left in the U.S. doesn't even have to have their own kids anymore. They can infiltrate the government school system and mold the minds of other people's children for such a long time. And that's why I think they fight against letting people go somewhere else harder than anything else. They know they can shape the direction of our country without even having their own children. And so I think we are having a revolution of sorts in the U.S. where we're starting to win these battles because the unions overplayed their hand and showed how far left the rot is in the government school system today. And so 17 of our states have passed universal school choice in 4 years alone. So it's gone from 0 to 100 on the issue. And it's almost been a silver lining of COVID of sorts, where they closed the schools, families saw what was happening in the classroom. And that's what I'm here to talk about at CPAC this coming weekend, Friday to Sunday in Brisbane. But hopefully other countries, not just the U.S., can benefit from allowing the money to follow the child. I know the government in Australia isn't as favorable to the idea at the moment, but things can change in the future, and so we should get those ideas out front and center right now.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned CPAC, Corey. We'll be there. Outsiders next Sunday morning. We'll be from CPAC live, taking questions from the audience. Corey, you'll be there. Obviously, I imagine you've rewritten parts of your speech since the events of the last few days. But CPAC in Brisbane, I'm sure people can still get tickets for that. And looking forward very much to seeing you there. Awful circumstances, but we'll be chatting a lot more. Thanks to Corey DeAngelis.